everybody, it's Brent Michaels and welcome to CRS. So many years we've done 30 sales ideas in 30 minutes, but this year we know there's so much to see and do at CRS, we've made it into an Instagram account. So check it out and follow right now at CRS 30 in 30. That's at CRS 30 in 30 and get a bunch of ideas to take back to your market, all that can generate revenue. On air, for socials, on location, some NTR ideas, you'll love it. At CRS 30 in 30 and check it out.
Good morning, everyone. Hi guys, I'm Brittany Johnson. I'm leading the DMS panels with the Agenda Committee, and we are so excited to have the Pack Your Bags Country Gone Global panel to kick it off. So without further ado, we'll bring up our panelists and our moderator, Meredith. Come on up, guys.
Hi, good morning. We have a few other people coming up on the stage. It's not just me. I'll just go ahead and go down a list and get the intros out of the way because we have a lot to talk about today. We have Michelle Tegard-Kammerer, aka MTK, Global Head of Country Music at Amazon. We have Millie Olikin, SVP of Artist Development and Global Touring at Live Nation. And Chris Cappy, aka Cappy from Make Wake Management. I'm awake now. And he has a little artist you might have heard of called Luke Combs, +++. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for getting up bright and early. I don't think anyone is shocked to hear that country music is a global genre now. So we're going to kind of skip through the fun stats because everyone in this room already understands that's happening, and we're going to kind of get tactical and talk about how we got here, what's coming next, and real takeaways that you can bring back to your team to ensure that this continues to be a global genre. So we'll go ahead and dive right in. Cappy, I'm going to start with you. You said the last time you were here, it was with Luke for New Faces. So he's not a new face anymore. He might even be the poster child for country music right now all over the world. He has a new album coming out, which we're all jacked about. He has a world tour. The last one was arenas. Now we're talking stadiums, 3 Wembley stadiums. So from a management perspective, when does the international strategy even come into play for an artist? Going from New Faces to where you are now, when did it actually come into play?
Immediately. When we moved over to CAA, John Huey and I had a conversation, and we were immediately booked onto C2C and CMC the same year. So this was 2017. And we did C2C.
And for those in the room who don't know those initials,
right,
C2C is?
Yeah, country to country, and then country music, or CMC Rocks.
So London and Australia.
So we did London, Ireland, and Scotland, and then we flew to Australia, and then we did Australia. We played around the world in a month. I learned my lesson not to do that again. But we did that, and because we knew that we had fans, and we were the first on the stage. We were in front of Casey and Kip. When we were over there doing those in 2017, and then when we were on the B stage at CMC Rocks in Australia and Brisbane, and then we did some underplays while we were down there. But we knew that we had to get there as quickly as possible because the feedback coming across socials was that, hey, you have fans over here, so you need to come and see us. And we knew we were going to take a hit, and we did very, very early on. We lost, tens of thousands of dollars in doing this, but we knew that we had to build a global brand, and we couldn't do it by just touring the lower 48. We had to look at it as an ability to take the brand. If they were listening and they were saying they were there, and I was getting 10 to 15 messages per week from people in Ireland and Scotland and England and all over Australia, there was definitely more than those 10. So we made a very concerted effort very early on to do that, knowing that we would lose money, but we had to build other touring markets. Our dream was to not just be a artist that could play, 7 cities in the state of Georgia and 10 cities in Texas. We wanted to go and play the entire world, and we're still doing that.
So you were really motivated by the connectivity through socials to go and explore. And let's talk about Amazon data. So when you're looking at the data with country music growing in different markets now, what's really popping for you, and where do you think artist teams should be investing if they're about to make that first international move?
For sure. So I think we're always looking at metrics. We're always looking at data. I think all of us in this room do that. There was a DEMA study in Q4 that came out that said that the U.S. was, even though it's the second largest streaming market behind China, but it's the sixth most saturated market, which shows us that there's a lot of growth to be had ex-U.S. Of course, U.S. is a great market, and we're always focused on that, but we're seeing all of these different things pop. For us specifically, Amazon Music, just an example of that is over the last 2 years, we've seen a 75% increase in the UK alone on Amazon Music streams. And what's great about those listeners specifically is they're highly engaged listeners. So in the UK, the average country music listener on Amazon Music listens 55 hours per month, which is 25% more than the average UK listener. So the country music fan is a highly engaged fan, and we're seeing that across the board, where we are also leaning into things like C2C, CMC, Australia. Of course, Canada has always been our second largest market as well. And then we're also seeing other markets pop like Brazil and Mexico, which we've leaned in different ways. From Mexico, a few years ago, our brilliant programmer, Emily Cohen-Belote, saw this rise in Mexico, and we launched the Whiskey and Tequila playlist. That is a regional Mexican music meets country music kind of genre blending playlist that we launched with Walker Hayes and Corinne Leon doing their own collaboration of Fancy Like, to just kind of blend those two, because what we find over and over again is this local music scene, what they love, and then also country music, they're way closer than what we think. So you can go back and forth, and those fans are the same.
And Millie, on a live side of things, we know that there can be a disconnect between streaming and the live audience. We can use Luke as an example. When he was doing his arena tour, we were seeing that the streaming numbers and the fans that were actually showing up, a wide gap between, because more people were showing up in a live space. So from an international touring perspective, what markets do you think are tour ready for developing artists? And are there any other markets that are catching your eye right now?
Well, it goes along with the stats. Anyone who looks at your artist data, you'll see that Australia pops all the time for artists in their top 10. I think Luke's probably biggest markets are in Australia. So outside of North America, Australia and the UK are the biggest touring markets, and that's pretty obvious. Australia, I always describe it, it's a little bit like Canada. It's got its own country music scene and artists and festivals and radio, so you can just plug in and you're there. But once you get out of those two regions, we're really seeing Europe starting to develop and be a real country market, particularly in Norway and Sweden and Denmark. You're going to hear Luke Combs' name a lot on this, because he went and did things, this team went and did things first. And when we saw Luke sell arenas in those markets, that's when the whole industry could go, oh my God, Scandinavia is a real market. Once you're going through Southern Europe, it is a little bit different. Unfortunately, all these countries are different markets. They have different kind of media and different ways of maybe attaching themselves to country music. Some are more into the traditional stuff, some are more into the pop-leaning stuff. But they are markets coming on board, and we're seeing more artists, like Tucker Wetmore right now is going right through Belgium and France and into Germany, Netherlands, as well as the Nordics. So is Megan Moroney. So there's a lot of artists that are starting to do that, and they're more developing, but I would say the more volume we get through those markets, the more we can make a better payday for artists as they start touring. I mean, I know MTK mentioned Brazil and Mexico. We see them in the data as well. There's just not really country touring happening there just yet.
Talking about planning, we're kind of hearing about the patterns of what's really popping, what opportunities exist. We're hearing a little bit about the festivals, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. But MTK, when it comes to teams that are planning their first international tour, what are the different ways that they could engage with the Amazon editorial team to really maximize their opportunities in these different markets?
Yeah, so we have a tool called AM4A, or Amazon Music for Artists, that all artists can upload their music to, and that does place it globally. I also think that, we have, if you're looking at your specific data in whatever you as an artist are seeing that you're popping in. We were talking backstage about kind of this thing that happened with Kip Moore in South Africa, right? All of a sudden, he's popping in South Africa, and he doesn't understand why, but it was a moment, and they built those relationships, and then he went down, and he's going back again. Cappy and team have done a great job at all of Luke's international markets as well. I think where you can really reach out and where we have more opportunity than I think we've ever had in the history of country music is the fact that we're so connected digitally. So if you see something popping in your TikTok stats or on your socials, or you have fans reaching out to you, talk to those fans, reach out to those fans, make sure you're, connecting with those fans in those markets. And then you also have things like Chartmetric or Luminate, that if you're looking at those different areas, that you can be planning on building those relationships before you get into that market, because, depending on if there's cost involved, if there's the opportunity, if you're booking in those markets, but once that demand's there, really connecting with that fan is key. So for us, we're lucky on a streaming level, that streaming is global, and that's also given country music the biggest opportunity we've ever had, because if you have a device in your pocket, a device, an Alexa device, or you have a computer, you can listen to country music. It doesn't have to necessarily be local. It absolutely is global. So we're very excited about all of the opportunities that you have, but I think as an artist, management team, booking agent, anyone in the industry, watching what is popping in the metrics, and then also the fans that are communicating back to you. At Amazon Music, we have things that are called leadership principles, and they inform us how to do business internally and externally. And our number one leadership principle is customer obsession. We are obsessed with what the customer is wanting, which is, in this case, the country listener. So if you take that aspect with your career, and where are those fans finding you, if they're being found on TikTok, Instagram, within a streaming service, lean into those fans. Talk to those fans, DM those fans, communicate with those fans. It's been easier than ever before to be able to reach out digitally to those fans, and streaming is a great way to do that as well.
Yeah. And then, Millie, when you're talking to teams about their first international experience, established and developing artists, what advice do you have for those teams, and how is it different? For example, Brooks and Dunn just had their first UK show ever, and it was headlining C2C, and the crowd was insane. But there are different ways you can enter a market. So when you're talking to developing teams and established teams, what advice do you have for them when they're heading over for the first time?
I think the common factor is that everyone has to have a strategy about international. And I've been doing this a long time as far as talking about country music internationally. In my early days, it was when I was one of the promoters of C2C, and then most recently with CMA, and now here at Live Nation. But I actually do find I'm having the same conversation 15 years later, which is like, you need to put it into your strategy. You need to develop an international strategy. This is exactly what Luke did. Now, we know Luke is a massive artist, and he's playing stadiums everywhere, so it almost feels like it's a little bit of a unicorn in that regard. But I sometimes think that country artists wake up in the morning and want to play stadiums. I don't think they all wake up in the morning and go, I want to be a global artist. But I think if they did, we would be able to build it, which is my passion and vision, like rock and pop does. Rock and pop tours all year round in all markets all over the world. So I think it's just about developing a strategy and including international, like thinking about an international play once a year or once every 18 months. You put it in and you start planning for it. Because if it's kind of tacked on, oh, we're touring May to October, we'll do something in November. Well, everyone's trying to do something in November. Well, actually, it's not November because we've got the CMA Awards then, so it's going to be October. We're fried from touring. Oh, let's put it into January. Oh, well, everyone's doing that as well. So those periods of the year get very busy internationally. So I think be aware of that. and also really plug into your local promoter and get some and make sure your first tour you have a great team around you, whether it's a publicist, a promoter that can help set things up for you, and you've got time in the market to make connections locally so that the next time you go, you've already kind of built something that you can build on.
And just to speak off of that also, touring internationally is very different because each country has different rules and laws about, ticketing and that sort of stuff. So in Europe, you have to use 3 different ticketing companies, okay? It's law. Another thing is that, like, if you sell out a venue, in some countries, you can just upgrade that. If you're going from GA to GA, we can do that. So when we were playing over there nobody believed in us. So we're like, yeah, we're going to go to the Scandinavian countries and sell at arenas. They're like, yeah, sure. And so what we had to do is we had to book rock boxes. And this is the beauty of WME and Shannon Saunders. And what she did is she's like, okay, here's the rule. In these countries, we can book GA. And then if we sell this out, we can upgrade that GA to a GA floor and then sell the seats at a different price. So we did that. So we held a rock box and we held an arena. It sold out in the pre-sale with more people buying than we had in the fan club, and it sold out, immediately upgraded to an arena, charged more for the seats than we did the floor because we had to move the floor to an equal thing, so GA to GA. And then we did that. So we upgraded every single venue that we played in, except in France, because the rule in France is you have to refund every ticket and then resell them again. So just having an expert in the room like Shannon and Aaron Tannenbaum at WME to work with us, because you're also working with multiple promoters. The one thing I have to give Live Nation and AEG, what they have done is they've started to get more involved, because for the longest time, we have been taken advantage of. Country music has been taken advantage of internationally, like, well, I don't know if you're going to sell tickets, so we're going to give you a really crappy deal. And then we get caught up in taxes, and we get caught up in the currency exchange. Then we get caught up in just the simple fact of going over there. And then they hit us over the head for buses. They hit us over the head for backline. Like, it's expensive to go over there. But it gets to a tipping point where as you're doing it, so you can either go play Topeka, Kansas every year and milk that market dry, or you can go play it every 3 years, and then you can create a proper touring market outside of it. So you go and play Australia once every 3 years, and you pull the proper funding out of it for your tour. You do the same thing in Europe. You do the same thing in Canada. I think one thing we do very poorly in Canada is we don't let Canada be Canada. We let Canada be a part of the U.S. tour. So you never give an opportunity for Canadians to feel like that. We did that a few years ago. We did a proper Canadian tour. It was launched as a Canadian tour. It was sold as a Canadian tour. It wasn't an add-on to our normal tour. So if you can do that, you should do that. Dirks and Keith both did that. I watched them. I was like, well, they're doing it. Why can't we do it? Well, you can. You just have to have the wherewithal to want to do it and to go up there and get up there. Canada can be a real pain in the butt sometimes. It also can be an unbelievable market that is great. Crossing the border is not the easiest sometimes, but once you're up there and you're in there, you stay, knock out all your shows, and then you come out. It just makes a lot more sense. But if you treat the fan like the fan is supposed to be treated, they're going to respect that. Give them a Canadian ad mat. Give them everything that's based around them. And they're going to do that, just like we're doing in Europe, just like we're doing when we go to Australia. Australia is the hottest market I've ever seen. It's the hottest market. It's a giant Texas island down there, and I don't know why we're not down there more. It's expensive. I do have to say that the promoters down there, Live Nation and AEG, in behalf of Frontier, they're doing better deals now for us. They're helping us. I don't know if you know this, but you can't tour on buses in Australia. They don't have them. You fly from city to city. You need to know these little things on how you do it, but they've got it perfected down there. But if Pink is going down there, and if Ed Sheeran is going down there, and those type of people are going down there, there's no reason why we can't go down and do the same thing as hot as our genre is right now. If we don't do it right now, and we don't plant our flag, what's going to happen is the same thing happened at the end of the 90s when we had all that heat going. We had Shania and Garth and Reba and everybody doing what they did, and it started to cool. What did? We just pulled back to Nashville. We played the lower 48. Everything was fine. We would pop out, do something here and there, and that's it. Because we could make money. Country music can make money in markets that normal artists don't make money in. We go make money in Macon, Georgia, Valdosta, Georgia, Atlanta, Rome, Athens, like all those cities. We make real money in those markets. Other artists don't. So we are like, well, it's easier for us to go do that, then why would we go overseas? Because when you get to the level that we're at, and I hope that you would strive for your artists to get to that level. Now, not everybody can be at this level. We have to be realistic. But if you can be, or even at arena level, you can't play the same market over and over and over and over again because you burn it. So you have to find new markets to go to. You're going to make a little less money, but you're going to, in the long run, increase what you're doing. And as everybody knows, with streaming and everything, we're building annuities. That's what our streaming revenue is. It's an annuity to last a long time. What makes your annuity valuable? More people. How do you make more people listen? You go to them. Very simple.
Well, Cappy, you touched on Canada. Do we have any Canadians in the room? Oh, right. Hey, I know those Canadians. Okay, task force representing. Thank you. Well, I do want to touch on Canada because I feel like when we talk about international, it is the territory that gets ignored the most. But when you look at the stats, it's the #2 territory in the world for country music. 90% of their population lives within 150 miles of the US border. It's routable. Yeah, we have issues with merch, but what country doesn't? You know, people are navigating that space. People like Luke, Old Dominion, Dirks, there are artists that have shown that investing in that market, working that market within its own tour and hitting up the secondaries is a great way to expand not only your fans, but your legacy as an artist. And as you continue to grow old, you can easily take an hour flight from Nashville and hit up Toronto and get great media access. So what do you think people don't know about Canada? Why are they not investing in Canada and asking questions like they are about the UK and Australia? What do you think the secret is from your perspective, the connectivity to that market that people aren't aware of?
Well, I think the one thing that, you have to deal with, first of all, taxes. You have to deal with currency conversion. You have to deal with that. Okay, that's one thing. I think people don't think that country music is massive up there. And you have like Boots and Hearts, and you have Calgary Stampede, and you have the great festivals that are up there. So then we get a payday to go up there and do that, and you see it. But we just don't think, because we're just like, hey, it's just an add-on to the tour. Like, we're doing it this year. We're going to go in and, go up into Green Bay, and then we're going to pop in and do Toronto and Montreal, because we can't plan a proper stadium tour up there because, again, the size of it. So when you're planning tours of this size and moving that much staging and you're moving all of that stuff, you almost have to create an opportunity to have a hopscotch stage where one's jumping over the other and stuff like that. Then, of course, that becomes so expensive. But when we're able to do that. Before, when it was smaller in arenas, we were able to do a proper tour up there. We were able to go up there and hit London, Ontario, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, up into Quebec City, all the way up, So I think the Canadian country music fan, because they have proper radio up there also, so you can actually do the same way we do things here. You can do there also, and they have that country fan. They have real fan, and we have a lot that come here to Nashville. I know there's a lot of Canadian tourists that come here and stuff like that, but I really wish I would see more people do that. My younger bands, Cooper Allen has been up there, the Castellos just went up there, Flatland Cavalry, they all do, in rooms that are 500 to 5,000 caps, blow out every time.
I think, and that's impressive that they're doing that, because I think what happens with country artists, they attach themselves internationally, because international's hard, right? So I think what happens is they go festivals. We're going to play festivals, and there's some brilliant festivals in Canada, and it's like Lasso and Boots and Hearts. You just referenced a bunch of them, but also that's the same with international. C2C, CMC. It feels like it's like easy, but actually at one point, well, there's two points that artist needs to address. Is one, you have to build a hard ticket. A ticket that a fan actually buys, as opposed to a festival ticket, which we call a soft ticket. For your artist to make money internationally long term, you have to know your worth on a hard ticket. And so you can't just play festivals. At some point, whether it's in the US or internationally, you've got to go and build your hard ticket. And that's where the investment really is. That's what we're talking about with it really costing Luke to go. But now Luke actually makes money internationally. And a lot of artists do. We just saw Jordan Davis do one of his biggest shows ever, and it was in London. He sold out Wembley like that. And he's like building a really great European business now. Brad Paisley still does excellent business in Europe and UK and Australia because he's built it. So let's get out of just thinking about festivals and thinking about hard tickets, or let's think about festivals that aren't just country festivals, because there's a lot of festivals across Europe and Australia that want to book country artists. So you can think about things beyond just those key festival times internationally. And it is interesting about Canada, because I had assumed artists were just touring to Canada, because I'm generally been focused, my role is focused on markets outside of North America. So I was kind of very surprised to learn that there wasn't that much touring going on. And I think, we can do better. It's a fantastic touring market. Do a lot of business there with rock and pop. Let's do it with country.
But it's hard. International touring is hard, so you have to be ready to do the hard things to get there. You're going to have to, market differently. You're going to have to invest that money. So your whole team needs to believe in it. Your manager, your label, your agent, like everybody's going to, because it's going to be hard, and it's a risk, okay? And some people are not risk adverse. I'm very risk averse, so I'm like, well, let's go, and it paid off. So you have to take that, willing to take that. You have to to know that you might do a show that doesn't sell well over there. You might have to play in a room where you normally play in the States. You play to 5,000 people to play to 500 people. And again, there's an ego to the artist. It's like, oh, I don't want to go play a club again. It's like, I can't get Luke into a club fast enough. He has so much fun playing in clubs. Like, we just did a club this year, or this past year, 2 actually. And you have to find the team and the artist and everybody that's also willing to take that chance. If we don't do this now, we're going to do the same thing, like I said, at the end of the 90s. If we do not plant our flag in the world, we won't be, we'll go back to Nashville, and the next wave of music that's happening, we're in a wave of country music right now. We're in a massive wave of momentum for country music. If we don't put anchors into the ground now, we are going to lose that momentum.
I think too, to piggyback on that, some easier ways too. If you don't have the financial backing right now, there are always things that are happening here too. Like, for instance, with Amazon Music, we're the exclusive live stream partner for Stagecoach. We live stream that globally, and then we rebroadcast it in local times for those local markets. So if you're playing Stagecoach, you know that you're actually going to be speaking to those fans. Same thing with ACM Awards. We stream, on Prime Video, Amazon Music, Twitch, and within the app, the ACM Awards is 240 plus territories globally. So if you're on that ACM Awards stage, from what Millie was saying, have an international plan, because you're talking to those people. You're in front of those people, whether you're actually in their living room or whether you're in a club that is right down the street from their house. They're able to see you, they're able to hear your music. So have a plan, a strategic plan to talk to those markets, or be posting, on your socials, UK, blah, 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 this time, like, rewatch me on Stagecoach, or what have you. I think another thing that you can do too is look for those collaboration touch points. Right now, in fact, yesterday, our brilliant artist relations person, Sarah DeMarco, shout out Sarah DeMarco, we love you, just did an Amazon Music original, which is it can either be a brand new track, a covered track, or a reimagined version of a song. It's exclusive on Amazon Music, but for CMC Rocks, it's happening in Australia. We have Braxton Keith, a US artist, and Tyler Rodriguez, an Australian artist, that are collabing together. So you're touching her local audience, you're touching her, fans that are there, but then you also have Braxton, that you have the US. So you've got that like collaboration touch point too. So if there is an artist that you love and that is maybe big in that local territory and you can't get into that place right now, then maybe there is a collab you can do. There's so many ways to duet on social media. There's all those other touch points I think that you can do when you don't have the means or the opportunity at the current moment, but then you can be building those audiences so that need is there, and then you can make that jump to overseas, et cetera. I also think when we were talking about Canada, there's also a big story when we're talking about the country genre global of the export story from Canadian artists, right? I think right after this is the Josh Ross Cycle of a Song, right? Josh Ross has won male CCMA Vocalist of the Year. Like, he's incredible. We adore him. And now we're seeing that translate over the US. For us, Cameron Whitcomb that you just mentioned, right? We just did another Amazon Music original with Cameron Whitcomb that broke the record. And actually, hold on, I have it, so let me not say this wrong. So Cameron Whitcomb's All Your'n, which is a Tyler Childers Amazon Music original cover, was set a new all-time global Amazon Music record for first week track streams by a Canadian country artist. That was a very big data point. But it just shows you that the need is here too. So as a country programmer, as a steward of the genre, which is all of us in this room, there's an export story there too that's helping uplift country music globally, that then I think we can leverage. If you have an artist that's US that's going global, or you have another global artist that's coming here, we can all lift those ships and really talk to all of those audiences together.
Well, Cappy, I will let you talk, I promise, but that brought up a good point. That is something that's different from the 90s. The 90s was all export. We had incredible artists, we had arena tours, we had all that attention on country music. Something that is now new is the amount of attention that domestic artists are getting in these different areas. In the UK, the Shires have reunited. In Australia and Canada, there's always been a bustling country music scene, but now they are starting to get global deals. In Norway, the biggest artist of any genre, any nationality from anywhere in the world is a Norwegian singing country artist named Tobias Sten that just got a record deal. And of the top 10 songs in 2025, 9 of them were his. So that's more than Luke, more than Morgan, more than Dua Lipa, more than any artist. So we're starting to see that connectivity and that country fandom going root steep in these markets, which is great considering the sustainability. But when developing artists are coming into that market, like the Costellos and younger artists that probably have representation in this room, what opportunity does that create for them? You mentioned Tyla, but at what point do you start to engage with these artists? And is there a point where you don't need to engage with these artists?
I don't understand your question.
Okay.
You don't engage with the artist.
Let's focus on the positive side. So, you're coming through the market, Tyler Rodriguez. Bring me back to the root of why these collabs started.
Well, for us, we see what we've always done with Amazon Music is that we go, again, customer obsession. We go where the customers are, right? And so we know, to Millie's point, there are these big festival moments, the C2C, the CMC. So what we do is we align a lot of those events with exclusive, unique, and compelling content on Amazon Music, because we know that there's a lot of eyeballs and there's a lot of ears. And so again, as stewards of the genre, we're trying to capture as much audience and bring as much audience into the space as possible. So you'll see when CMC Rocks is sponsored by Amazon Music and we have a stage sponsorship there, which we do this week, we'll do the AMO that then Tyla and Braxton will be performing, which they are this week. Then it will be available on Amazon Music. So a country fan who goes, oh my gosh, I love that song. That was so cool. I got to see it. Now they can listen to it. They can have it in their playlist. It becomes part of their vernacular. It becomes part of their everyday life. And they continue to build that fan relationship. So it's just connecting those dots constantly so that they can go back to that fandom experience that just helps all of us in this room. Because once country music is part of your life, it's a timestamp on your life, it's in your blood, it's, oh my gosh, I had this breakup and I listened to this song, oh my gosh, I got married and I had this song. That's when it becomes infused in what we do, and that's, I think, why we all love this genre. So I think capitalizing on those moments is key to really bring that fandom experience and help that country listener.
I was just going to jump in just on what you were alluding to with country artists in other markets having success. and that it's awesome. We've known Canada's always had a lot of successful country artists in their market, as has Australia. But it is really cool to see that, because I was just in Norway with Zach Top, who killed it and sold out 3,500 cap room, could have sold 7,000 tickets. And I was in Norway and Sweden around his shows there. But there is just like Canada and Australia, Norway's got that market as well. That helps us. It means we can go in and plug in with those artists. By the way, those artists also want something from us. They want something from you. Is there a way of putting them on support? It's a really good thing. When we're talking about touring, I just want to touch on this in general. When you're going into an international market, you often are like, it's really expensive. We've got 2 weeks. Let's just blast through 9 shows and get out of there and barely have a day off and be exhausted. I would really recommend that an artist takes a little bit more time. Get some time to do press. It's your promo tour. It's your meeting your label if you've got one. It's building relationships with media or any influencer in that market. You need to spend some time. And also getting to know the local artists so that there can be some more kind of actual organic growth for your artists in their market. So that was the other thing I would just add, just build some space. And let's see if we can also help build those artists here. At some point, we are going to see an international artist have success in America. It's going to come from somewhere else. That will happen.
And the other thing, all of this shouldn't fall on the artist's checkbook either. Billboard often says that UMG, Warner, everybody is having Sony record-breaking numbers, okay? Record-breaking. Awesome. Share it. Send these guys there. If you have the money and you want them there and you want them to become international and you understand it, pull the budget from the Sony Germany budget. Pull the money from Sony Australia. Empower them. You're making a ton of money. $10,000 would go a long way. Or if you're help them get hotel rooms, cover that cost. If you're the manager, defer or waive your commission, okay? If you're the agent, do the same thing. And I know a lot of you will do that, but this all can't just fall on the artist only and be like, well, I'm still gonna take my share. If you wanna build this, everybody has to give. Everybody has to be there. Everybody has to feel it to make it work. But if you do have the opportunity, and like I said, Live Nation AG have done an unbelievable job of getting better deals for us. They have negotiated better. Rumor has it that Live Nation is gonna buy some venues in Australia. I hope you do, because we'll get such better deals down there because everybody holds us over a barrel. Also negotiating your deals with the tour promoter in the States. Okay, if you can negotiate the deal there, it makes it a lot easier for you. So it's having that ability to do that. Millie is doing an unbelievable job of really trying to increase these newer acts and growing them. I have calls with Millie all the time about this stuff. And AEG does the exact same thing, and that's why they're both such a great adversary. Not adversary, but an advocate for us. Sometimes we think you're an adversary, but you're really not. An advocate for us and getting all of this done. But everybody has to help. Everybody has to. And if you're a label in here and you have the money, come off the checkbook, write a check, help these people grow.
That's another nuance, actually, what you mentioned about venues. In America, AEG-owned venues, Live Nation-owned venues, there's venues owned by promoters. Internationally, you can play any room. You can play the O2 or Wembley Arena or Wembley Stadium. Doesn't matter. There's not the same ownership. And as per Cabby said, that ticketing is shared between different vendors. And in certain markets, I learnt this when I was in Norway recently, you can't resell a ticket for more than face value. It's against the law. So there's all different things that happen in different markets. It's quite helpful to know. But yeah, you can play any venue internationally, Sydney Opera House, the O2, etc.
Cappy, let's talk a little bit about a global rollout plan. So going back to New Faces days with Luke, when you are looking into these new markets and you are trying to put a plan together internationally, any artist from the US is put into a bucket of international artists within that market. So if you're going into Germany, you fall into the bucket of international and you're competing against other major artists on that label. How do you advocate for your artists in moments like that when they are developing, but they are making this investment? And oh, I had another question. Sorry, guys, I'm a bit jet lagged. I just did a little world tour myself. But when it comes to that, like, talk to me about what a well-coordinated global rollout actually looks like.
Yeah, it's luckily Sony and WME are so helpful in making that happen. So like when we go to Australia, Sony Australia is down there setting up meetings for us, getting it done. When we were over at, when Luke went and played the Opry 100 and we went and did Royal Albert Hall, we did BBC One and BBC Two. That was all set up. We did Jules Holland, and that was all set up through the label. So we had, and our PR teams. So we had the opportunity to go and do that, but you have to, like Millie was saying, taking that extra time to immerse yourself into the market to do that. They're appreciative that we've come over there and they want to see us. It's no different than when the European invasion happened in the 60s and the 70s with rock music, and they came over here and we wanted it. So we didn't know how often it was going to come over here, so we went and saw it. The same thing happens in reverse over there. But you just have to take risks. For instance, perfect example, the Castellos. They're opening Luke's European tour every show. So got with WME, got with their agent, Kanan. All right, let's do underplays. We're doing 900 to 1,000 cap underplays over there in 3 markets. They all sold out. They all sold out. They've only been over there for a C2C stage where they did Berlin and I think Amsterdam. So we're able to go back over with nothing, but we know it's over there. So just getting over there, figuring it out, piecing it together, everybody chipping in and making it happen. I think that the strategy has to be, how do we break over here? What is it? And what's stopping us from breaking over here? And if it's financial, you have to figure out a way to make that happen. Again, that's the biggest fear I hear from every manager that I talk to and everybody. Well, it's just too expensive to go over there. I remember talking to Kojo when he was opening for us in Atlanta 3 years ago, and we were having dinner, and he said, well, I'm not going down to Australia. I'm not going to go down there and do that. And I said, man, Cody, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard you say. And you don't tell Kojo that something he said is dumb. And his manager, Howie, was sitting there, and Luke and I were all having dinner. And I was like, Luke's like, Cody, you come with me. Come with me down there and see what it's all about. Make sure you guys absolutely are taken care of. And you'll be able to go back down there and tour on your own. And Cody said, okay, fine, Luke, I'll go down there. And he went down there and he opened our arena tour down there, and he went back down and started touring arenas right after that. Like literally like within a year. And it completely broke wide open. And he was like, man, you were right. This is unbelievable. I can't wait to get back to Australia. And his first time he went down, he broke even. He didn't make any money. He got just enough because he had a large touring crew. But now he goes back down there and he's turned it into a full thing. He actually went down there and did a rodeo.
He's actually turned into a real international artist now. He's
Yeah,
got
yes.
like an amazing tour on sale, that's including O2 in London in October this year, and he's been to Brazil with Barretos. Like, that trip changed his mind, going with Luke, and sometimes you just got to get out there, and then when you see the fans, and you're like, oh, I get it now. I mean, you always see that penny drop moment with artists.
Yeah, we've seen that. I mean, we talked about Kojo doing the Brazilian rodeo, Casey Musgraves did it. Like, there's all of these little things are bubbling all over the globe that you wouldn't think would be territories for country music, but it's so cool to see.
Okay, I have a yes or no question for all of you to answer, and then I have a final thought because we have about 2 minutes left here. Yes or no, is it possible for artists to be successful and have careers outside of the U.S. without breaking it in the U.S.?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Final thoughts. What is one piece of advice from this panel that you want this audience to share back with their teams? If they only had one thing to take away, what would it be?
Think globally. And it's a lot easier than you think to start specifically with social media and making sure that your music is on, streaming services, Amazon Music, AM4A, do it. But I think you can build your global audience and then get the demand and go as well as touring it. But I think that it's been easier. It's easier for us than any time in history to speak to fans that are not just US.
I would say, because you've already said mine, I would say think more than just your first trip. What is it's not like I've got to get to the UK in 27. It's like, let's think about what does 27 look like? What does 28 look like? How could you stagger things to actually get out there? So think globally and be strategic about it.
Take the risk and ask for help.
That's very good.
And just a reminder, CMA is a trade association that is here to help. So if anyone does have any international questions, please find me after the panel, or just call CMA, and we're here to help you on your journey.
Yeah,
Thank you for
and
coming.
CMA can connect you with anybody around the world. Meredith has these relationships with everybody, so just hit her up.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming.